Layla Cruz hurried through the glass doors of Meridian Architects, clutching a damp umbrella that had done little to shield her from the relentless morning rain. Her hair clung to her forehead in damp strands, and her navy blouse showed faint wrinkles from the brief but intense commute. She wasn't dressed for the polished environment. Her slacks were practical but unremarkable, and she wore simple flats instead of the sharp heels typical of the office. Yet she bore an air of quiet determination as she stepped into the sleek lobby, where floors gleamed under the bright lights and minimalist artwork lined the walls. Heads turned subtly as she moved down the long corridor. Employees exchanged quick, appraising glances, their expressions hovering between curiosity and thinly veiled judgment. Clerks adjusted their posture at reception, designers shifted their conversations to quieter tones. The atmosphere thrummed with the precision and polish expected at Meridian, and Layla's unpretentious appearance seemed out of step, an anomaly to be filed away in the background buzz. Vanessa Jacobs, the firm's project manager, spotted Layla from across the room. Vanessa's sharp eyes narrowed behind her glasses. With a curt nod to a nearby assistant, she marched toward Layla with purposeful strides. "You," Vanessa barked just loud enough to draw a few glances. "You're the new coordinator, right?" "No." "Well, coordinate this. Go fetch the latest binders from the storage room. And while you're at it, tidy up the supply cabinet in conference room B. We can't have things falling apart under your watch." She smirked, glancing from Layla's rain-wet coat to her modest shoes, voice laced with scorn. "Maybe try to keep up next time. It's a fast-paced place here, with standards." The room held its collective breath as Vanessa turned sharply and strode away, leaving Layla standing still, eyes steady beneath the drip of rain. Layla's expression remained unchanged as Vanessa's footsteps faded away. The room around her resumed its steady hum of activity, but the sting of the project manager's sharp words had already settled in the air. Instead of moving toward the storage room or the conference room, Layla pivoted gracefully and headed directly for the Human Resources office. The corridor stretched out ahead, pristine and austere, but she walked with the kind of calm certainty that suggested this was the path she intended from the moment she stepped in the door. At the HR reception, Julianne Moran looked up, her eyes lighting with genuine warmth. "Layla, welcome," she said, gesturing toward a nearby office. As Layla crossed the threshold, Julianne's demeanor shifted from casual to professional but friendly. "I'm glad you're here. Everyone's eager to get started under your leadership." Layla settled into the chair opposite Julianne's desk, brushing a damp lock of hair behind her ear. "Thank you," she said softly but firmly. The contrast between this warm reception and the cold dismissal she'd just encountered at Vanessa's hands was striking. Julianne leaned forward. "We had some initial confusion, but there's no mistake. You're the new project director for the Horizon Initiative. Your experience is exactly what the team needs." Layla nodded, appreciating the clear confidence Julianne showed in her. "I understand. When leadership arrives unexpectedly, there's always a moment of adjustment. I'm here to make that transition as smooth as possible." Behind her, laughter spilled out from the break room, where Vanessa's voice rose with the easy confidence of someone who believed she had already won the battle of first impressions. "Did you see the new girl? She looked like she wandered in off the street in a rainstorm," Vanessa was saying, her words cutting through the soft chatter. "Honestly, I had to spell it out for her. Told her to bring me those binders, and to tidy the supply closet. Sure looked like she needed the job." One of Vanessa's colleagues chuckled. "You really showed her who's in charge." Layla, though nearby, kept her back to the room. The murmurs and laughs were faint now, like distant thunder. Julianne's voice pulled her attention back. "Vanessa tends to treat anyone she sees as below her with little tact. We've had reports, and I'll be handling it. But for now, it's important you meet the team on your terms." Julianne's eyes softened. You should know, your achievements are well known here, your work in sustainable design and your leadership at Global Architecton. You'll inspire this group more than they realize. Layla released a slow breath, feeling the weight of Julianne's confidence steadying her own. Coming here, she began, I wanted to wait, observe how things ran before making judgments. Sometimes appearances give misleading impressions. I came straight from a client's site early this morning. Practicality had to come before presentation. Julianne smiled. That practicality is exactly the approach this office needs. It's not about polish alone, it's about substance. Outside the door, Vanessa's voice grew louder as she recounted her handling of the new arrival, regaling any listener with her version of events, a version flavored with mockery and condescension. She barely knew where to stand. I almost had to lead her by the hand. Another voice joined in, laughing lightly. Guess she's gonna have to learn the hard way around here. Layla heard none of it. Her thoughts were in preparation, shifting from the role of outsider dismissed by arrogance to the leader who would command respect. She knew better than to meet arrogance with confrontation yet. Her response would be in actions, decisions, and the unmistakable clarity of competence. As she and Julianne discussed initial plans for her first team meeting, Layla's calm resolve grew. Her mind was already mapping out the project milestones, thinking through how to re-engage a group persuaded, wrongly, that she was anything less than their future leader. After the meeting with HR, Layla took a moment in the quiet hall outside the office. The corridor's polished surfaces reflected her steady gaze back at her, unyielding. The rain might have left traces in her damp shoulders, but inside, a fire burned steady and controlled. When Layla finally stepped back into the bustling office, the murmurs had shifted. Some curious eyes followed her, seeking to reconcile the modest figure they had dismissed with the powerful presence she now carried quietly but unmistakably. Vanessa, finishing her self-satisfied gossip, caught sight of her and frowned. But Layla offered no hint of reply, only a faint, serene smile before she disappeared into the heart of the firm. There, beyond the surface judgments and whispered jokes, Layla knew real work awaited, and real respect would have to be earned not with words, but with unwavering professionalism. Walking deeper into the firm's core, Layla felt the edges of the morning's awkward encounters blur into insignificance beneath the weight of what was to come. The role of project director wasn't just a title, it was a responsibility she intended to fulfill with precision and grace, leaving no room for doubt about who truly belonged in the leadership seat. The midday sun filtered through the towering windows of Meridian Architects' open-plan workspace, casting long, angular shadows across the polished floor. Employees gathered in small clusters around the central meeting area, their voices a low murmur tinged with anticipation. Notices had gone out early, a special announcement was scheduled, and no one wanted to risk missing the news. Vanessa Jacobs, poised near the entrance, offered a stiff smile that barely concealed her unease. Her previous public confidence felt brittle now, and she caught furtive glances from colleagues whose expressions suggested they knew more than she did. Julianne Moran stepped onto the makeshift stage, a slightly raised platform where company events commonly took place. She adjusted her glasses, cleared her throat, and gestured for silence. The room reluctantly hushed. Beside her, Layla Cruz stood tall, her presence calm but commanding. Her damp hair was neatly arranged now, and though her attire remained practical, it had a quiet elegance that drew respectful attention. Ladies and gentlemen, Julianne began, thank you for assembling on short notice. Today, we are pleased to officially welcome Layla Cruz as our new project director for the Horizon Initiative. A subtle ripple ran through the crowd, some whispered surprise, others nodded knowingly. Vanessa's breath hitched imperceptibly. Her eyes locked onto Layla's serene face, drinking in the realization that the woman she had publicly dismissed was in fact the most powerful figure in the room. Julianne continued, Layla will be leading this firm's most ambitious project to date. Her international experience in sustainable architecture and her reputation for transformative leadership precede her. We look forward to her guiding us into the next chapter. At those words, Vanessa's colleagues exchanged quick, loaded looks, some matching disbelief with exhaustion, others with quiet satisfaction that justice, in some form, was being served. Vanessa herself remained mute, a flicker of color rising in her cheeks. After the applause died down, Julianne stepped aside, motioning for Layla to speak. Layla's poise remained unruffled, her voice, steady and clear, cut through the lingering hum of gossip. Thank you for your warm welcome, Layla began, scanning the room with a steady gaze that held each person's attention. I'm eager to start this journey with all of you. Leadership is a partnership, and I intend to earn your trust through results and respect, not titles or appearances. The words hung in the air as though daring anyone to question them. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the building, Vanessa was summoned to the HR department. Entering the room, she found Julianne already seated behind her desk, an unreadable expression on her face. The tension was immediate. Vanessa, Julianne said, folding her hands, I'm aware of your conduct this morning regarding the new project director. Publicly undermining her and misrepresenting her position is unacceptable. Vanessa swallowed hard, her earlier veneer slipping. I thought she wasn't who she said. Julianne's voice remained firm but less severe. Assumptions made without verification disrupt the team unity we strive for. You're an important part of this firm, but your behavior must reflect our values. You will be relieved from your current project duties and enrolled in professional development training. Vanessa nodded, biting back words that might have been defensive excuses, replaced instead with a quiet resignation. She realized that her own attitude had cost her respect, and that could take more than bluster to rebuild. Back in the meeting room, Layla concluded, I want to hear from all of you, and to work together honestly and openly. We will set new standards, not just for architecture, but for how a team supports each other. The staff's demeanor shifted palpably. Initial mutters of skepticism were replaced with tentative nods and curious faces leaning in, eager to witness the leader who had so quietly but decisively claimed her place. Vanessa stood just outside the room, watching the scene unfold behind frosted glass. The air was heavy with the weight of her humiliation, not because she had been confronted brutally, but because she had misjudged someone who had now swiftly earned genuine respect. For a long moment, she simply watched, absorbing a truth she had previously missed. The power and leadership lay in something beyond appearances or accusations. It was in calm confidence, in earned trust and quiet authority. In that room, Layla remained the focal point, steady and composed. Her arrival had disrupted established assumptions and forced a reckoning. This was no mere formality. This was a beginning. And everyone present, even Vanessa, could feel that the old order was shifting beneath their feet. The room had transformed. What had started as a gathering tinged with skepticism now hummed with focused attention. Layla Cruz stood before her new team, calm as if she had walked these corridors and commanded there for years, not minutes. It was Julianne Moran, firm and articulate, who took a moment to outline Layla's impressive credentials. Layla has over 15 years of experience managing high-profile architectural projects around the world, Julianne explained clearly to the room. Her work in sustainable smart design is award-winning, from groundbreaking developments in Scandinavia to urban regeneration projects in Asia. Most recently, she led the global architect and team that transformed the Riverfront district in Melbourne. The success of that initiative earned her the Innovators Leadership Award. Murmurs of interest and surprise rippled through the gathered employees. The air shifted palpably, faces that had previously worn skepticism now showed curiosity, and, in some, respect. Layla herself lightened the mood with a brief smile. I know my appearance this morning probably raised a few eyebrows, she said, her voice warm but direct. I came straight here from an early site inspection. Years of practical experience have taught me that sometimes you measure a leader not by how polished her appearance is, but by how she navigates challenges when none of the cameras are rolling. Heads nodded slowly. Vanessa's earlier mockery rang hollow when set against the calm authority and results that Layla quietly represented. I believe in leading through observation and listening, Layla continued. Seeing how people behave when they don't know who's watching reveals a lot. But I also believe in transparency, from me to you, and from you to me. This team's success depends on trust, respect, and a commitment to shared goals. She rested her hands on the smooth conference table and scanned the room. I decided on a simple outfit today, not just out of necessity but deliberately. I want to spend my first days as your director not focusing on appearances or formalities, but observing the dynamics here. Understanding what works, and what doesn't, is the first step toward meaningful change. Her words were measured but resonated deeply. Colleagues exchanged glances, some exchanging small smiles, as if a veil had been lifted. Julianne returned to the podium. To be clear, Layla takes the helm of the Horizon Initiative immediately. We are counting on her to bring fresh perspective and decisive leadership. Layla's gaze remained steady, drawing the team into the moment. We have ambitious deadlines coming up and complex design challenges that require creativity and clear communication. I want to set expectations now. Openness and accountability will be non-negotiable. The room settled into attentive silence. Layla's demeanor carried no arrogance, just a quiet command that made questioning her authority feel both unnecessary and unwise. I encourage each of you to raise concerns, offer ideas, and support one another through this process. We're a team, and no one succeeds alone. As she finished, Vanessa stood near the back, shoulders tight and jaw clenched. The transformation between the woman she had dismissed as some unready newcomer and this composed, articulate leader was undeniable. This was not a woman to underestimate. After the speech, the staff began discussing work plans and timelines with a renewed focus. Layla moved among groups, listening intently, asking pointed questions that made clear she had already done her homework. Later that afternoon, Vanessa was summoned again to the HR office. Julianne's tone this time was more measured but firm. Your behavior today is a concern, not just your remarks this morning, but how it has impacted team morale. Vanessa sighed, acknowledging the truth in the director's words. I became defensive because I was caught off guard. I didn't expect to be contradicted so publicly. Julianne nodded. We will be placing you on a temporary suspension from your lead project duties, effective immediately. During this period, you will participate in leadership workshops focused on communication and team building. This is an opportunity to grow. The realization settled over Vanessa with a quiet weight. The consequence was fair but serious. She had allowed arrogance to blind her to leadership qualities she hadn't recognized, a costly error in judgment. Meanwhile, back in the main workspace, Layla prepared detailed schedules for initial reviews and client communications. Her focus was unshakable, a blend of strategic vision and practical execution. Team members gravitated toward her, not just because she held the title, but because she handled herself with a confidence not seeking to dominate but to unify. Later, in a brief encounter outside the conference room, Vanessa and Layla crossed paths. Vanessa looked away first, but Layla caught her gaze and nodded once, firmly, with no trace of malice, just a quiet expectation. I expect your cooperation moving forward, Layla said evenly. No more, no less. Vanessa's response was a subtle dip of her head, an unspoken acceptance of the new order. As the day drew to a close, Layla walked through the glimmering space of Meridian Architects with steady steps. The earlier doubts and dismissals seemed like distant echoes now, fading into the background behind her deliberate passage. In every glance she received from colleagues, Layla saw the beginnings of trust, not blind adoration, but a professional respect earned through integrity and unyielding competence. With measured confidence, she embraced her role and the challenges it held. This was not just a first day marked by a brusque misunderstanding. It was the start of a leadership that would quietly but unmistakably reshape her new workplace's culture, one decision at a time. The morning after the public announcement, the mood in Meridian Architects was palpably different. Where there had once been low whispers and sideways glances, now the corridors carried a renewed sense of purpose. Layla Cruz had settled into her role with a quiet authority that left no room for doubt, and the staff were beginning to mirror her professional, composed demeanor. Vanessa Jacobs, lowered from her usual pedestal, entered the Human Resources office with a slow, measured step. The door closed softly behind her, muffling the faint sounds of the bustling firm outside, isolating her within a stark room where the consequences of her previous conduct awaited. Julianne Moran, seated behind her desk with her trademark poise intact, regarded Vanessa with a mixture of firmness and regret. "Vanessa, I want to be clear that the decision to remove you from your lead project duties is not solely punitive. It is an opportunity for reflection and growth." Vanessa bowed her head slightly, the weight of the reprimand settling on her shoulders. "I underestimated Layla. I let my assumptions get the better of me. That was a mistake." Julianne nodded. "And it has affected team cohesion. The leadership role you played carried responsibilities beyond project management, modeling respect and professionalism to your colleagues. We have scheduled you for an intensive leadership training program starting next week, focused on communication, conflict resolution, and emotional intelligence." Vanessa's lips pressed into a thin line, a flicker of humility breaking through her formerly unshakable confidence. "Understood. I want to do better." The hours that followed were telling. Vanessa's usual sharp tongue was tempered as she moved through the office, greeting colleagues with practiced civility. Conversations that might once have been tinged with tension now contained hints of renewed respect, or at the very least, acknowledgement of her efforts to change. Among the team, Layla's leadership style had already begun to resonate. Her approach, direct, yet approachable, invigorated even the most reserved architects and designers. She held brief check-in meetings, listening attentively to concerns and ideas, making immediate efforts to act on reasonable suggestions. The Focal Horizon Initiative project gained momentum, with schedules tightening and milestones beginning to be not just met but anticipated. One afternoon, after a particularly productive session reviewing new blueprints with her core team, Layla found herself crossing paths with Vanessa near the coffee station. The room fell slightly quieter as the two women nodded briefly in mutual recognition. Layla offered a composed, courteous smile and said, "Vanessa, I appreciate your willingness to engage moving forward. Our success depends on every one of us respecting the roles and contributions of others." Vanessa returned the nod, voice steady but quiet. "Thank you, Layla. I intend to learn." Their exchange was brief but significant. It marked the closure of an earlier chapter defined by misjudgment and friction and the opening of a new dynamic built on professionalism and potential reconciliation. As the day waned, Layla walked the length of the company's gleaming hallways, her stride confident and measured. Employees paused in their work to offer a brief smile or a respectful greeting, gestures that previously had been hesitant or absent. Her presence demanded no grand theatrics, no loud proclamations or dramatic punctuations. Instead, it was the quiet, consistent assertion of leadership through action, fairness, and unwavering commitment that earned her genuine respect. The project plans rested on her desk, layered with notes and timelines. Clients' emails awaited carefully crafted responses. The architecture firm's future was no longer a series of tentative steps but a steady march energized by purpose and clear direction. As evening shadows stretched over Meridian Architects, Layla stood by the window overlooking the city skyline. Rain had returned, but this time she welcomed it, remembering the morning when the same weather had leaked in under her coat. It no longer mattered what she wore, how wet or imperfect her appearance might be. What mattered was the strength she carried within, the essence of leadership grounded in resilience and quiet competence. The day's challenges had been met, the initial barriers dissolved. Vanessa's journey toward growth was underway, and the firm gathered behind a leader whose presence was less about surface judgments and more about substance. Layla stepped back from the window, shoulders squared, and moved confidently toward the waiting evening, ready not only to lead but to inspire through purpose and example.